my favorite stop, Don's Seafood at 4801 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie between Clearview and Transcontinental. It doesn't get any better than this. The charbroiled oysters, the fried seafood, the broiled seafood, you name it, you'll get it at Don's. The soup's fantastic as well, and there's a whole bunch of those. And a pleasant good evening to you, Ken Trahan from Don's with sportsNOLAtv. So glad that you could join us this evening as we talk about the New Orleans Saints, a big victory. Also LSU in Tulane, coming off of off weeks, high school football as well. And we do it with some outstanding gentlemen. First and foremost, former NFL, former New Orleans Saints wide receiver who didn't spend any time with us on Saints Hall of Fame Alumni Weekend, Torrance Small. Torrance, good evening to you.
How we doing, Ken?
I'm good.
Hey, it's heating up. Playoff games now. Every game counts. It's playoff time. Excited about what's coming up.
That's all he's got. Brian Ellie Walsh of sportsNOLA.com joining us as well. I'm sure he's got more, and he's not shaving that hair. Brian, good evening to you.
Good evening, Dr. Trahan. Just a special shout out to all the classification champions of the State Volleyball Championship, beginning with but not ending with Newman in Division 2, in Division 4, and Country Day in Division 5. Colleen Larzell at Newman and Julie Ibieta at Country Day. Congratulations. And we'll mention the other state championships as the show goes on.
Like right now. Like St. Joseph's, like
right.
St. Thomas More, and like Joey's Catholic.
Absolutely.
All righty then. Took care of that.
And I'll tell you what, Kenny, it was excellent volleyball. Outstanding.
Way to go. The libero himself, Brian Ellie Walsh.
Libero. Come on, let's get it right.
No, I'm having fun with you. That's why I said it that way. So, the third member of our esteemed panel is Pro Football Hall of Famer, Saints Hall of Famer, and our Hall of Famer, Ricky Jackson. Ricky?
I tell you what, Brian, just to see the people in New Orleans yesterday, how they carried on after the game, man, and how the town just didn't shut down. I don't know what time they went to sleep last night, but the Saints fans, they had a game yesterday they thought were going to be pretty tough, and the Saints pulled through, and I think the whole city just happy behind that.
And of course, Ricky was part of our Saints Hall of Fame All Saints weekend, and you enjoyed the gala Saturday night, didn't you?
Yeah, I tell you what, man, everybody came out. I mean, I invited maybe too many people, Ken. I had about 20 people there, so I had to apologize to Ken. But all my friends wanted to come. I mean, they wanted to get involved, so they came out.
We had great restaurants, but Ricky unquestionably feels like the two best were Ricky Jackson's Meat Company and Don's Seafood. We'll take a time out here when we return in just a moment. The Saints and the 49ers on WHNO. Maybe the most improved defense in the league, and really the numbers don't tell the truth of points scored because the Saints have set up other teams to score points this year, which really weren't on their defense. Yesterday was certainly an example of that. This is a terrifically improved defense. Rob Ryan deserves an enormous amount of credit. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, Don Seafood in Metairie, the Saints 23, the 49ers 20. Brian, many reasons for this victory. I guess what was most notable is the fact that the Saints overcame so much adversity, so many mistakes. 21 points, the touchdown by White that wasn't, the setup of a touchdown by Lance Moore, the setup of a touchdown by Drew Brees, and yet they still won the game.
Yeah, Kenny, I mean, they did everything. It seemed like they were trying to throw the game away, but you know what? You were absolutely right about Rob Ryan. If there is a better assistant, I would give him the Assistant of the Year award, if there is such a thing, and I believe there is in this season, because he has molded this defense into one of the best. That statistic that we just showed on television, back-to-back games under 200 yards, that reminds me of the Dome Patrol, Ricky, when you played.
You're speechless.
Yeah, well, I mean, you as a kid used to go to terror, but I'll tell you what.
That's because Brian messed up the format. That's okay.
Every week he can go back to Ken and it's just but I say the Saints played great yesterday, especially defense. I mean, anytime you can manhandle the 40 line like they did. I mean, anytime you play a great team, they're gonna get some yards and stuff. But the key time Saints came through, and I mean, it was just great. I think the crowd should get the credit because the noise was so loud. to the 49ers really couldn't comprehend what they was trying to do a whole lot of time on offense. So you have to take your hat off to that crowd noise.
Many statistics to point to, Torrance, but the Saints outrushed the 49ers 92-81. San Francisco had not rushed for under 100 yards this year. They did in this game. They also did the Saints dominate time of possession, a common theme this year. And the big number there, the 3 turnovers to 1. You lose -2 in this game, in fact, and you still win the game, which clearly indicates that you were the better side.
Yes, team like the San Fran, they thrive off and take advantage of turnovers. And they took advantage of the turnovers, but the one thing, they cannot score consistently on offense. And I think they're in the same boat with the Kansas City Chiefs, sort of. Great defense, but just can't take advantage of moving the ball on their own on offense. Our offense, you cannot give us that many opportunities. You can't give Drew Brees that many opportunities, and we're going to put points on the board. As you see at the end, we went down. We didn't get the 7, but we did get the 6 that we needed.
Ricky, the NFL is unforgiving. The adjustments that are made year to year are significant, and if you're not a really good player, physically and mentally, you're going to get exposed. Colin Kaepernick is not the same player this year. He's hesitant, he's indecisive. We see no read option. We see him when he has an open field to run, hesitating to run. He's obviously not the same player this year that he was when we saw last year.
Well, you know, football, they always say you got a sophomore jinx, and that's what it seemed like he's going through, because I know one time yesterday, Crucial, when he ran the ball to the outside, he got about 8 yards, he went out of bounds with 2 yards left. He's supposed to got that first down right there. He's supposed to turn back in, and whoever hit him or whatever, he's supposed to try to get a first down. And that's what a lot of quarterbacks doing now. They worried about playing the whole year and not certain games. Yesterday, he supposed to went inside and got those 2 yards and kept his offense on the field and going. But, you know, I consider, you know, a lot of times they say sophomore jinx look like he having one.
On that critical 3rd down play, Brian, when he ran out of bounds late, he saved the Saints time, saved them a timeout, and really made it rather easy for Brees to manage the clock, didn't he?
He sure did. And one of the knocks, and we saw it yesterday, is that against Kaepernick, is he's not going through his progressions. He's finding one receiver and then he's panicking. Where he used to run last year, that was his first tendency. He's not even doing that. I didn't think he was very decisive in some of his decision making yesterday.
Torrance, one of the things I really liked about this game was that I thought the Saints won the physical battle, and against that team, that's pretty significant. The Saints' offensive line, in particular, won that battle. They were very impressive. They opened holes, and they protected Brees for the most part.
Yeah, if you look at us since the bye week, we've been a physical team. The Saints have been coming out, they've been playing physical offensively and defensively, controlling the offensive line. These last few games, our running backs begin getting the carries and getting the yards that we've been needing. I think that's improved a whole lot the last 2 games, our running game right now. And if that keeps improving, it's going to be trouble for a lot of teams.
This defensive line of the Saints, Ricky, it's deep. They have a lot of guys that can play. Cameron Jordan most notably, but they got a lot of good players. And then the guy wearing your number, he played a very good game yesterday in Hawthorne.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, what's impressive that these guys, you know, you don't know these guys, they're no-name guys, but man, you know, go and shake their hands. All these guys are strong. They're in the weight room heavy, you know, they're big and they're physical. And a lot of people don't know them, but, you know, a lot of these guys are going to get a big name after this season. They're going to be able to, you know, write their own ticket, some of them. You know, they big guys and they got speed and they tough guys, and I really like that about them.
And offensively, Brian, I mentioned the running game, and Brees threw the pick, which he can't seem to avoid the big mistake against San Francisco, but they do that to a lot of teams, don't they?
And Brooks particularly, but, you know, contrary to what one of our panelists believes, I'm glad they kept Mark Ingram.
Oh, Mark Ingram. Hey, Mark Ingram, I hope you continue to run for us. Please, you'll be good trading.
I'll tell you what too, Ken, just like he said, on our panel, I mean, just like he was talking about how hard they need to be kicked off. I mean, he made 3 good kicks yesterday to help us win the ball game. So right back to Brian on that one.
The guy earned it. That's good, man. I like it, man.
That's why he's a Hall of Famer.
That's it, man. Fire
That's
back.
why he's a Hall of Famer.
The guy earned his keep. He did a good job.
No,
he's
he's
proven he
been
can
playing
kick in
well.
big game situations.
Yes.
He seemed to have found himself yesterday. And I thought it was important for the Saints to get a wash in the kicking game because the 49ers have perhaps the best kicking game in the NFL. But, Brian, the 49ers won field position all day. The Saints did not.
And I tell you that, you have to give the defense a lot of credit. I mean, they were You know, they were faced with poor field position many occasions because of turnovers, and them holding the Niners to field goals instead of touchdowns at critical times. That's one big reason why the victory came about.
There's no doubt.
Ricky.
And the Saints managed to overcome, and they managed to make a big play in the kicking game themselves. I thought it was big when Cadet returned that kickoff after San Francisco had scored and really changed the momentum back the other way and gave them the lead going into halftime. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a trip around the NFL, take a look at results, and give you some analysis as well as we continue from Don's Seafood in Metairie on WHNO Channel 20. Our Sports NOLA TV trivia question of the evening from sportsNOLA.com is this. The Saints meet the Falcons Thursday night in Atlanta. Who was the Saints' first ever opponent in a Thursday night game? Was it the Indianapolis Colts, the Chicago Bears, the Los Angeles Rams, or the Atlanta Falcons? You think about it, you come up with your answer, and we'll have our sportsNOLA.com trivia question answer a little bit later on in the show. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, Don Seafood. Great stop in Metairie. Make the trip here. It's worth it. It's also worth it to take a look at what's happened in the NFL this past weekend as we review the scores. The Thursday night special, which the Saints will have this week. Indianapolis had to rally to beat Tennessee by 3. The Jets. The Saints are going to rue that loss at the Meadowlands. They're just not very good. Buffalo gave them a beat down. The Bears in overtime on the worst field you'll ever see in the NFL these days beat Baltimore by 3. Long weather delay there. Cincinnati pounded their rivals, the Cleveland Browns. It was Oakland beating Houston, who's sinking fast, and they have people getting after each other now, teammates. Arizona, don't sleep on them. They're playing pretty well. Beat Jacksonville. Philadelphia has to be considered the favorite in the East, right? Beat Washington 24-16. Thrilling game. Pittsburgh overcame Detroit. That's good for the Saints. Tampa Bay really beat Atlanta worse than the score would indicate. Falcons just playing awful. Miami with a big home win over San Diego. The Giants beat the Packers and their backup quarterback. Giants have won 4 straight. Seattle, looking like the best team in the NFC, beat Minnesota convincingly, and they got Harvin back. Denver ended Kansas City's unbeaten season, so the 72 Dolphins are popping the corks. And New England and Carolina, an intriguing Monday night game. 2 good teams and one that Saints fans will pay close attention to, undoubtedly, as well they should. So we look at those results and we contemplate what impressed us, what did not impress us. Torrance, what did you see in these results that impressed you?
I'm going to go to the NFC East. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Redskins. What the Redskins didn't do, they didn't move the ball until later on, way too late. The Eagles are playing great. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now. Nick Foles haven't thrown an interception yet. Playing great ball. They're playing great team ball. Defense has got a lot better, and they're able to put points on the board.
Brian?
Kenny, I'm going to go to the Lions-Steelers game at Heinz Field, played in sloppy conditions. And this was a game where the Steelers were up 14-0, and the Lions went on a 27-point flurry in the second quarter. Matt Stafford threw for 300-plus yards. Megatron had a tremendous second quarter. And then they didn't do squat in the second half, and they lose 37-27. This was a game that they should have won, could have put some distance in the NFC North, and now they're back tied with the Bears, although they do own the tiebreaker because they have swept them.
Ricky?
Well, I like the way Pittsburgh trying to hold in there and hoping that they can keep this up together and make the playoff. But my team is Cincinnati. Cincinnati really came out and played great football yesterday against Cleveland, and they just beat them in all facets of the game.
And I would say Tampa Bay. I mean, when I look at what Tampa Bay has on the field, they've got talent. They just played very poorly for a coach that they didn't seem to like for much of the early part of the season. Now they've righted themselves. They played pretty good football of late, and that's of concern to the Saints because they've got to play them again later on in the season. But certainly they've got some physical talent, and they showed that against the Falcons, and we'll see whether or not that has any effect on Atlanta's performance against the Saints this week. Let's take a look at the NFC South standings as we stand now, and Carolina has the Monday night game, so the Saints are a game and a half ahead of them at the moment. Tampa Bay now tied with Atlanta, and you look at the opponents forthcoming, and Tampa Bay has Detroit. Miami for Carolina at Miami will be a tough game for them off of a short week. So Torrance, you look at that, and look, Carolina, this is their time. If they don't win this game tonight and then they go to Miami, they're in trouble in terms of catching the Saints and really posing a threat to the Saints.
Yes, right now, at this time, this is the green mile. This is going to let you know if you're going to make it to the playoffs or not. Every game counts right now. These last 6 games, every game counts. They have a big one tonight. Like you said, we're hoping that they don't win because the Saints, we're chasing Seattle right now. But we cannot overlook Carolina because we have them twice.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. You know, the idea that with the short week this week, Atlanta, you've got Seattle in 10 days after that. This is a big stretch, but I'll tell you what, they've gone 2-0 against Dallas and now San Francisco, and that's a great start to this green mile. I like that expression.
Ricky, obviously, Carolina is a team that's similar to San Francisco, the way I look at them. They're physical, they're fast on defense, and they have a quarterback that's an athlete. I think those two teams are pretty similar.
Well, I think Carolina receivers are better than San Francisco. I think yesterday San Francisco receivers didn't impress me at all. You know, they had Anquan Boldin. I mean, besides him, nobody else showed up. So Carolina got a little more offense for the receiving, and we'll be a little more concerned about, you know, they always try to play tough. They are a rival, you know, so they got a lot of tough receivers. So we got to make sure we battle those guys.
Let's take a look at the Saints' upcoming schedule. And it is a challenging upcoming schedule when you look at what is to come after Atlanta. It's that very difficult trip to Seattle. Everybody will be watching that nationwide on a Monday night. And then it's Carolina for the first of 2. And then they go to St. Louis to play the Rams, who are pretty good defensively. And that will be a challenge as well. So, Torrance, obviously this is a challenging schedule that the Saints have.
It is, and if we look back, you know, earlier we were talking about it being a challenging schedule with Dallas and San Fran coming back to back the way they did. We said it's going to be challenging. They overcome that. The Saints are a very good team. I think just like we look at it and we think about these tough teams that we're playing, but they're looking at us the same way.
Brian, I said going into this stretch, San Francisco, the 2 Carolina games, and Seattle. I think if you win 3 or 4, you're in good shape. They got the first one, still have to win 2 of 3.
I agree, and normally, you know, we probably all the panelists would say Thursday night's game at Atlanta on prime time would be a tough one. I think they're going to blow the Falcons out. The big game is in Seattle on December the 2nd.
Ricky, what about the Saints' upcoming schedule?
Well, I mean, you know, like Terrence said, everybody watching us too. You know, just like we're watching a couple of teams that you think going to give us a little problem. Everybody watching us. We do our job, take care of our business, and run the table. We ain't got to worry about nobody else.
All right, the Saints' next game obviously is against the Atlanta Falcons. The matchup, 8-2 versus 2-8. NFL Network television. Saints won that thriller in week 1. They went north, and the Falcons went south. After that one, Sean Payton has owned the Falcons. We talked about that. And Breeze really struggled in the Georgia Dome last year, so we'll see if he can redeem himself in this one. On a short week, you never know what's going to happen on either side. Both teams off of a short week. We'll take a timeout here. When we continue, we'll take a look at college football and high school football as sportsNOLAtv continues from Don Seafood in Metairie on WHNO. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening, for which we will provide the correct answer now, and we'll see if you have figured it out. The Saints meet the Falcons Thursday night in Atlanta. Who was the Saints' first ever opponent in a Thursday night game? Was it the Indianapolis Colts, the Chicago Bears, the Los Angeles Rams, or the Atlanta Falcons? And the correct answer is the Atlanta Falcons, whom the Saints defeated 22-14 in a game that Ricky and Torrance were part of on December 3rd, 1992 in the Superdome. You know what I remember about that game? I think it was the third of 12 games, third game in 12 days, or third game in 11 days, if I'm not mistaken. And Jim Moore was pretty peeved after the game about the performance and kicking all the field goals, which Morton Anderson did a lot of. Ricky, you remember that well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he kicked about 5 that game, something
He
like
did.
that. All right.
Yep. And
Kenny, was that the game where Wade went down? No, Bobby.
No, it was
Yeah,
1992.
that's right. Yeah.
Come on. All right, time now for our hot seat segment. And The Hot Seat segment is brought to you by Pride Services AC and Heating. Pride Services handles all your AC and heating needs. Since 1984, Pride Services skilled technicians have serviced and repaired all brands and models. They never charge for on-site estimates and pride themselves on fast, reliable service. Get out of the hot seat and call Pride Services. Pride Services will fix it right today. Be here tomorrow since 1984. Today's Hot Seat segment appropriately is all about rules and stringent rules imposed in the NFL. What do you like? What don't you like about the rules, which obviously came into play in major fashion in the Saints-49ers game? And why do you like or dislike some of these rules that have been put in place in recent years? Brian Alley Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. You know, because of what happened last night with the Ahmad Brooks, Patrick Willis, was it a fumble? Was it a personal foul? And the effects that it had on the game. Okay, let's say right off the bat, the call was legitimate. It was correct. He definitely committed a personal foul, a 15-yard penalty. That said, and I sat in on the interview with Ahmad Brooks in the locker room after the game, and he was steaming. All right, and he had a right to be. For this reason, not because the official got the call wrong, but because the way that the calls now favor the quarterback, and rightfully so, these are the marquee players making $100 million, and we don't want a league with backup quarterbacks dominating the field. But what they should do is, if you're going to protect the quarterback, then let's go inside the trenches, and I know Ricky would agree with this. Go inside the trenches and start looking at chop blocks, all right? Start taking a look at what's going down in the trenches. And since these are all subjective calls in many ways anyway, all right, let's start tightening up on those kind of calls, and let's start protecting the defensive linemen, and in some cases when defensive linemen go at knees for offensive players as well. Let's protect everybody and not just the quarterbacks. But the 49ers do not have a leg to stand on. That was the correct call.
And you're right about that. It was the correct call. It's not the call that we're arguing. We're arguing the rules. And the rules right now is you cannot touch a quarterback, period. Now, one thing you did say that I totally agree with. If you're going to make rules for them, make rules for everyone. Because the one thing I do not like, a quarterback can drop back and throw a receiver out. Leave him out there to get smashed, to get knocked out. We have to go for that ball. I'm saying we like I'm still there. I am totally gone. But guys have to go out and get that ball and get smashed. Quarterback doesn't get fined for that. The defense will get fined, but the quarterback won't get fined for leading the guy out there like that. Hey, we know what we're getting into when we play this game. We've been playing this game since we were young. We know it's a physical game. Things happen. That's why they have doctors right now not letting guys go back out there with concussions and all. They're treating guys better now. If you so happen to get hurt in the heat of fire, hey, that's part of the game. That's the way I see it. Now, what I do like about it, you can't touch those receivers. I wish I was still there. I'd probably have a couple more years myself if I was able to still be out there. You can't touch it. I will create contact, because if you create contact, they're going to make the call on the defensive player. I like that part about the game, just because I'm a receiver. I'm a little biased on that right there. But I definitely think everybody should be protected if they're going to just protect the quarterback. They get paid more money. If you're going to pay them that type of money, at least fine them. It's on you, Ricky. Ricky?
Well, you know, I looked at the play over and over and over, and I say that Brooks should have been a lot smarter than that. I mean, the rules done changed. You can't do like used to do. What he should have did was went a little lower and hit him lower and tuck the ball. And if he would have been ball hawking and going for the ball, he wouldn't even have that problem. So I fought him a lot. You know, he went for the hit, the kill shot, stood making a great play for his team, and that's what the difference was on that play. That's why the referee called it, because when Drew dropped his head a little bit, all Brooks' force went from chest to up high, and that's what gave the referee an easy call, because he made it easy for the referee. Instead of staying low and taking the ball from him and putting a good decent hit, he tried to get a kill shot.
Well, not everybody's as gifted an athlete as you are. I disagree with you in this sense. I thought Brooks really had no other alternative but to go where he went.
Well, I played that position, and I played the position that Brooks playing. So yeah. I know that I would make that adjustment and make.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
All right. So Brooks is just like me. He was capable of making that play, but he went for the kill shot.
Yes, he didn't have to grab all the way, but he could have grabbed the outside.
He could have gone low for sure.
Yes,
He could have gone lower.
Order in the court. Time for the judge to render his verdict. There are many rules in the NFL that I don't like now. It's simply part of the game. It's simply part of political correctness. It's simply part of improving the game from the standpoint of protecting players. No doubt, follow the money. Where lawsuits are concerned, the money has an impact on the game, and that's what we've seen. It also has an impact on the game from the standpoint of children and participating in the sport. If the sport doesn't get the best athletes, which it's gotten for many years, it's not going to be the same game. It's not going to be the same sport. It's going to frustrate people. I think there are many rules that I don't like. The intentional grounding rule is a bad rule. Just let the guy throw the ball away. Otherwise, you're in gray areas and subjecting yourself to what we saw in the game yesterday. What is the difference between throwing the ball away and clocking the football to stop the clock? That's intentionally throwing the ball into the ground. There's no way you're trying to get the ball to anybody in that situation, and that's allowed. From the standpoint of hits on quarterbacks and otherwise, fully understood. You have to play within the rules. It's very difficult for defensive players. Breeze ducks, what are you going to do? But he went in high and he extended his arm, and there isn't anything you can do there. The right call was made in that situation. And then, of course, other calls, roughing the passer, we've talked about, intentional grounding, uncatchable passes on pass interference. Pick up the flag, like the one on Corey White. No way that could be caught. And then last but not least, icing the kicker. Call timeout, but call timeout before they line up to kick the ball. I think that's ridiculous, and it violates the spirit of the game. 49ers, by the way, did not do it. We'll take a timeout here. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk about college and high school football as sportsNOLAtv continues. Don's Seafood, right here at 4801 Veterans in Metairie. It's as good as it gets. 80 years, family owned, and terrific food. Always fresh, always delicious. You name it, they've got it. The gumbo, the broiled seafood, the fried seafood, the specials, the jacked up shrimp, charbroiled oysters. Don's has it all. Come over to Don's like we do at 4801 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie between Clearview and Transcontinental. More on Don's coming up right now. More on your New Orleans Pelicans, who are now 4-6 on the season after a convincing win over Philadelphia in the midst of a 3-game homestand. Okay, when you look at where they're at right now, Brian, obviously a very disappointing road trip, but there are the bright spots. Anthony Davis has been tremendous. Ryan Anderson coming back, that's huge.
Absolutely, and you brought up a good point, Kenny. You go to Utah. Utah had not won a game last Wednesday, and they lose to the Jazz. They got the Jazz coming here Wednesday. If this club is going to make strides and improve and challenge for that 8th spot out of the West, they can't lose to games that they should win. They can't lose to teams that they should beat, particularly early in the season, because, Kenny, as you know, that schedule gets progressively tougher as they go forward.
Torrance?
Well, one thing about basketball, you have some time. They play 82 games. Hopefully they can get this thing turned around and start getting a string of games. Once we get Anderson back, I think that's going to help out a lot because he takes a big guy out of that middle where our guys can drive a lot better. And Anthony Davis, he's having a hell of a season. I think he's just going to continue to improve.
Anderson was back in a big way the other night. Ricky, you watched him a lot. And the soft part of the schedule, this early season schedule has been very soft. They've played mediocre to bad teams other than Indiana, and they've not taken advantage of it. They're a little bit better offensively, just not better defensively at this point.
Well, you got 4 guards right there, and it's hard for that rotation. I mean, you got to find yourself 1 or 2 good guards to lay your hat on. You look at Oklahoma, they got Westbrook now. Most of those teams got 1 or 2 good guards. We got 4 or 5 guards right now. And we got some guys that, want to be scorers that really not score. So right now, they got a couple of players that they got to get in tune with the offense and what coach trying to do, and I think they'll be all right after that.
Yeah, they're home against Utah, then they're home against Cleveland. You got to win those 2, Brian.
Yeah, Kenny, and you know what you brought it again is that with a defensive-oriented coach like Monty is, and they're allowing opponents to score over 100 points. 5 of the first 10 opponents has scored more than 100 points. And this is a defensive guy. This is what they got to do. So in order for them to get over the hump, they're going to have to play more sound basketball.
Yeah, they weren't defensive last year. They couldn't guard anybody last year. So.
Well, maybe we need Rob Ryan over there. Get Rob Ryan over there. Hey, play some defense. That's good. We got guys with no names over there playing defense like Ricky alluded to earlier. Those guys play collectively. Maybe we can get those guys playing collectively. We get Rob Rob Ryan over there.
I like it. Well, it was a kind of a quiet week in college football with one exception around here. Tulane had the week off, and they're back in action against UTEP this coming Saturday, looking for that elusive 7th win against a team, frankly, that they should beat, Brian, in UTEP in the Superdome.
They got UTEP, and now, Kenny, they're behind the 8 ball. You know, we were thinking maybe the Coosa West title. They've already got 3 teams ahead of them right now. They've got to beat UTEP, and then, of course, they go to play Rice to end the season. They're going to be in a bowl. They're going to be in a bowl, but it's just a shame. I hope they finish on a strong, positive note here.
Yes, I think that's the key. The key is finishing off on a strong note. You know, you want to talk about recruiting. It looks a lot better when you're winning at the end when you're out trying to recruit kids.
And I mean, you know, they let 2 slip. I mean, those 2 games that they should have won, you know, we was looking for them to win those 2 games. It would have made recruiting a whole lot better. But if they can win one more game and get the 7th victory, that'll be good enough too to bring some good guys in.
LSU also had a week off, and now they get the defending Heisman Trophy winner in Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M at Tiger Stadium on Saturday afternoon. This one looks like it should be a high-scoring game, Torrance.
Yes, hopefully our offense can come and match it, because I believe A&M, they're going to put up some points. LSU defense has been very suspect all year. I think they're going to put up a lot of points on them, but it's all about our offense matching.
Well, I'll tell you what, the difference in last year and this year is that the LSU had a defense last year. They did as good a job against Johnny Manziel as there was in college football last year. I don't see them doing the same thing this year, and I agree with you guys. It's going to be high scoring. It better be high scoring, or LSU won't have a chance.
Exactly.
Well, you know, I looked at Johnny, and you know, I was trying to critique him and see was he the great player that everybody say he was. I really just say that, hey, this guy can play football. I mean, he do what it takes to win ball games, and he got great stats. So, I mean, he seemed legit to me.
Well, he's a better passer this year than he was last year, and he's still a great runner. We'll see. The one team that was active, Southeastern Louisiana, the Lions win the Southland Conference, beating Sam Houston State. Tremendous job by Coach Robertson. What a performance by Southeastern. They'd gotten crushed by Sam Houston just a year ago. They're going to the playoffs, and they're a dangerous football team. This is a team to watch. This is a great performance, and this is a great story that's emerging with people starting to pay attention to it in Hammond at Southeastern Louisiana. It is time now to take a look at Southeastern football, which is forthcoming on WHNO television. It's the River Bell Classic. Nichols State against Southeastern, Friday at 3 p.m., Saturday at noon. Here on WHNO TV. You won't want to miss it. Obviously, this is a big opportunity to see the team we're talking about, just how good they are, right here on WHNO and Southland Conference action, the River Bell Classic. It's Southeastern and Nichols State, and you want to go there and watch it on WHNO. And now it's time to take a look at our Prep Player of the Week for sportsNOLA.com, for the Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club, for WHNO TV, and for WGSO Radio. Andrew Hicks, the quarterback from Belle Chase against Lakeshore this past Friday. He carried 13 times for 190 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he threw for 253 yards and a touchdown, completing 14 of 21 passing in a brilliant performance as they dominated Lakeshore 56-13 in the opening round playoff game in 4A. So congratulations to the junior quarterback, Andrew Hicks of Belle Chase. And of course, that was part of the playoffs. Looking back at this past weekend, John Ehret, the 21, took down the 12 seed Mandeville in an absolute thriller as they scored 14 points in the final 24 seconds. Top seeds open this week and now swinging back into action. St. Augustine and Jesuit. John Curtis, a top seed, a rematch game against St. Charles Catholic. Those are both rematches. We mentioned the state volleyball champions a little bit earlier on. So get out and see a state playoff game. 9 classifications as they were. It's still a lot, but it's still fun, and we're looking forward to it this coming weekend. So with that, Brian Alley Walsh, as always a pleasure. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
We're going to keep the big guys with us as we go to break here. And when we return in just a moment, we'll tell you a little bit more about Don's Seafood, as I'm joined by my good friend Joanna Doherty as Sports NOLA TV continues from Don's in Metairie on WHNO Channel 20. We're Relax with us and savor the taste of great Cajun seafood at the newly renovated Don Seafood restaurant with big screen TVs and private meeting rooms too. That's Don Seafood at 4801 Veterans in Metairie. Call 889-1550 to find out when, where, and how. Prep Recruiting Insider is every Wednesday at 6 p.m. with Ro Brown and Renee Nato breaking it down, a feature school of the week each and every week. Great kids on that show too, and you have a chance to listen to them and meet them. And you can also meet John Forcade and Mike Metairie at Ray Brandt's John Forcade Show, Thursday, 6 p.m. at Ray Brandt. And you won't want to miss John, won't want to miss Mike. They're always fun and entertaining, and you know you must watch because you will enjoy. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, Don Seafood, 4801 Veterans in Metairie. And we're joined by my good and great friend, Joanna Doherty, of the management team here at Don's. Joanna, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks Ken.
Well, listen, I love Don's. You know that. I've been
yes.
coming here since I was a kid, which was, 10 years ago? No.
Of course, we'll go with that.
I'll tell you the truth. Full disclosure, the first one I went to was in Lafayette, and I've been there many, many times.
Yeah.
When you opened in Metairie, I was one of the happiest people around.
Yeah, that was our original one, way back in 1934, so yeah.
Been there many
Long time
times.
ago.
Now, one of the things I really like are the nightly specials. And I'm doing this just off the top of my head because I know pretty well.
Sure.
You know, you got the seafood plate. You got I think it's Thursday night, the fried fish and the fried shrimp. You got the boiled shrimp on Wednesday nights.
Shrimp, that is all you can eat. So
that's all you can eat. You got the surf and turf on Monday nights.
Monday nights are great because we just got oysters are in season, so we've got half off of all the ones on the half shell. So half off raw, half off the char grilled, and the jacked up oysters, excuse me.
And a seafood platter on Tuesday nights, right?
Seafood platter on Tuesday nights. Those are $15.99 for those.
And then the renovation. You really opened it up and everything's connected.
Gorgeous.
Talk about that.
It's gorgeous. We have a new oyster grill. So we make all the oysters right there, right in front of your eyes and everything. It's beautiful to watch when the flames go up and everything. And they're just amazing. There's some good food. You can come out and get some beers with it.
Ricky and Torch, you like it, huh? You guys really like it.
Well, I've been coming here, since I've been here. So, I mean, I always come by here. I always stayed over here in Ken and Metairie, and that was always one of my favorite places.
Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, see, that's great stuff. Now, see, I'm one. I love recipes. I like taking recipes. I'm not originally from New Orleans, so I had to learn the culture and all, and take a lot of recipes. Do you ever take some of the recipes and cook at home?
I've done a little bit of it, but actually that you say that we have the cookbooks for sale that has all the old recipes up front and everything.
Go to donseafoodonline.com. That's donseafoodonline.com. Joanna, thank you so much for having us here. We thoroughly enjoy it.
Thanks.
And we want to thank you for watching. For Torrance, for Ricky, Brian, and Joanna, and I'm Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us. Be a good sport. God bless you one and all. Rounding third and heading home. So long.